Hey guys, I've had two passions in my life. One is motorcycling, and I opened this shop after years of working in tech or whatever, and opened a motorcycle shop. But the bad thing is, once the pandemic hit, it's been really tough to find motorcycles. So my shop has pretty much nothing in it right now, and so it's about time I'm gonna have to close the shop. And it's been 6.5 years of doing motorcycles, and that's coming to an end. So what is the next thing I had a passion in? It really wasn't high tech. It was sailing. When I was, I think, I'm gonna say 10, but it was probably 13. I can hardly see with my glasses on. These are reading glasses. I was sailing. I sailed these little El Toro boats that we got to sail around the lake, and it was so much fun with the wind pushing you and all that. And I've owned a couple of boats, over the years, and one large sailboat that we had in San Diego, and then when we moved up to Washington, and then back to San Francisco, and ended up selling it because we just didn't have time for that sort of thing with all of our careers going on and kids growing up. And so as you probably guessed already, I'm looking at buying a sailboat. And I'm thinking a lot of you guys that ride motorcycles probably have interest in boats as well. And maybe I can get some advice and maybe get some help along the way. But, you look at all the oceans, and it's not like I want to sail around the world, but I'd like to sail places in the world. And we're in the United States here, and you could sail to Hawaii, you could sail to Alaska. I think you can do you guys can figure this out. I'm sure some of you probably already know. I think you could sail from like San Francisco down towards Baja and then out to Hawaii. And then you could take the same trade winds up into Alaska, sail back down through Alaska, and then come down the coast, maybe go into Mexico, maybe Costa Rica. There's all these great places in the world I'd be able to sail. It's not like I have the money to do this, but I'm going to try. That's what I'm going to try to do. So I'm closing the shop, and stick with me. I'm going to have a bunch of videos out. There's still motorcycle videos coming out because I do still have a motorcycle. And some gear reviews, things like that. But I'm going to transition a bit to some sailing, looking for a boat, and then once I get a boat, figuring out what to do next. All right. As far as a sneak peek, guys, here's what I'm doing. So I'm looking for boats, and there's my screen. So I'm like, oh my god. So Craigslist is one place I looked at this boat right here. It's a Fortuna 37. Open that up. This thing looks pretty cool. I actually went and looked at this boat, and it looks better in person than it does even in these pictures. Really fantastic. $69,000 for a 37-foot boat. Fortuna's got a weird reputation, like they stole some plans or something. Then they built some catamarans. All right, with that, let's go take a quick look at this boat and see what it's like. All right, let's look around. So let's see here. Aft cabin, aft bathroom. We can take a look. Got a really nice large cabin there, and then out to the main cabin. Oh, here's the motor. Oh, that's looking really, really good. All dry and clean.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. This is the man. He has got it down.
Again, spare alternator, spare everything.
And then we've got refrigerator here, very large. Refrigeration system comes from here. Locker, electronics. Be a good chart table.
Yep, all that's new. New
Yes.
remote for the battery.
Nice.
Single sideband radio. 2 VHFs, that's the original one. I added one with DSC.
Oh, good. So as you can see, this is an absolutely beautiful boat. And as this guy walks me through right there, that's the owner of the boat. And, I really loved this boat. But the but is that I don't think he really wanted to sell it. He kept putting me off and saying, yeah. And I'd say, well, how do you want to get an offer on this boat? And he'd say, well, I don't know. I don't want to sell it until maybe November, December. And he's going to be leaving the country, so and he's living on the boat, so he didn't want to sell it until
the day he was gonna get off of it. So he wasn't even gonna take an offer on it until basically the day he was gonna leave. And I basically just couldn't get a hold of him, so that was the end of that. Just happened to be one of those boats you really probably can't buy unless you're sitting there with the owner and he's ready to hop on that plane and go. Anyways, it turns out the boat has a tiller rather than a wheel. My wife doesn't like that, and then the cockpit was a little bit small. So as we left that day, this was the second time I looked at the boat, we decided against it, want to have a tiller boat. So it all works out in the end.
I think, let's see, the Swan. I looked at a Swan. I don't think it was this one. I looked at one of these. It's a 40. Yeah, no, it was a 47. I think I looked at. Anyways,
but it was definitely a pretty boat and big decks and a lot to see down below.
All right, so we've got galley, and let's see the stairs coming down, and into the galley.
Now, as you're going to see, this is an absolutely beautiful boat. It's gorgeous inside. It's, everything looks like it's in great condition, all original condition. A few things don't work. Refrigeration, I think, needs to be looked after in this boat, but everything else seems to be in working order. Now, the problem we have with this boat, being so beautiful and gorgeous and you want it, it's about a 40, I think there's a 46, 47 foot boat. It needs new rigging. It needs new sails. It has no electronics. And so basically all the systems need to be gone through. The bottom paint hasn't been done in something like 10 or 15 years, like a long time. So it's likely blistered on the bottom. Who knows until you pull it out. All those kinds of things need to be gone through. Anything that's an electronic component on this boat is original, so there was no upgrades whatsoever. But God, look at this boat. It is so gorgeous. It's got the bunks. It's got 3 staterooms, so a forward stateroom, V-berth, the bunks that you're looking at there, and then it's got the aft cabin, which is a massive cabin. So yeah, did I want this boat? Yeah, but when I looked at how much it was going to cost on paper, but cost-wise, it just doesn't make sense. At some point, you got to say, nope, it's going to cost too much to redo this entire boat.
So this is just kind of my search. I looked really quick. I love these Beneteaus. They're super cool. I'm not even looking at, shouldn't even be looking at the price. Holy smokes, $90,000, 40-foot Beneteau. I know they're expensive, and that's probably really reasonable, but I don't have that kind of money. But it's pretty. All right, what else? Let's see. If I went on to, so that's on Craigslist in kind of my local area. And then on Yacht World, I was looking at the Hunter 45. The 45 is a pretty cool boat. It's got a lot of ballast, and it's got it's a heavyweight boat for ocean passages, and a really good layout for sailing. Pretty fast boat, even though it's heavy.
So I was thinking the Hunter 45 would make a good option, and I found one in Mexico, so I headed off down to Mexico to take a look at one. Let's check that out now. So I head on down to Mexico. We're down in the Sea of Cortez, and Puerto Escondido is where we are headed. Beautiful place, little hotel, fantastic pool, all of that. But I got to get down and look at the marina, so I'm going to check out the marina at Puerto Escondido, which is this, gorgeous. And then there's the boat. The boat is that Hunter 45, and the amount of maintenance that has been deferred on this boat was just astronomical. There were things cut out of the boat to put in refrigerators in places. I just couldn't see doing that and being able to finish it in time. So I went back to the hotel, had a great meal, watched a great sunset, and headed back home and to keep searching. I'll find it. One of the boat I looked at in Mexico, the couple had been cruising the boat since it was new, and they had 40,000 hours on the motor. On the original motor, that's really fantastic. Sails were tethered and patched everywhere along the sail lines. They had all been restitched. Things like it had a new stove. Well, it wasn't a new stove, it was a new to them stove. Things like the water maker on that boat were not operational, cut part of the berth out, and the woodwork was cut out, and they put in another refrigerator. Great. I wanted something a little smaller that I could feel comfortable with handing most of the time, and my wife would feel comfortable selling it herself as well. So something a little smaller. So we started looking at 45s, which is not much smaller.
So we started going, let's go like the 38 to 40, maybe a 36, something like that. So let me show you a couple other boats.
But let's do that next week, and I want to show you a 38 that I absolutely fell in love with on paper, and some 36s, as well as something I really fell in love with that was never on my list. I'll see you next week.